let everybody else trickle in. We are so glad you're here.
Abu ready.
We're ready. We are ready.
No, I am Abu. I am Abu.
Abu. Hi, Abu. Nice to see you.
Boo. Hungry. Wow, California.
All right, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and get started, Sylvia, so we can. Oh, hi. Hi, Usman.
You can't get started.
Mozambique's in the house. So many wonderful, beautiful faces. Nice to see you all. So let's get started. As we always like to do, we like to start our calls, our Euphrates monthly community calls, with a minute of silence just to help everybody settle into this space together. So we'll just stay quiet together, and then I'll bring us back. You can feel free to close your eyes or open your eyes, whatever is most comfortable for you. And I'm going to mute myself as well. Thank you, everyone. I'm so excited about today's call. I had to really ground into that minute, into that stillness, but I felt everybody here with me, and I'm just so overjoyed to see everybody again. We get to see some of you because you're part of our Peace Practice Alliance, and we get to see some of you on a regular basis, a couple times a month, but some of you we don't get to see more than once a month. So we're so glad to have you here with us today for this call. Oh, it's wonderful to be together again in this sacred living room space. We've talked about our calls being like a living room where you come in, get your tea or coffee, grab a drink, sit down, relax, and just enjoy conversation. As you know, this year's community call theme is Untold Stories. So we believe that the storytelling, empathy, and heart-centered listening are just incredibly profound cornerstones in the work of peace building. And if you joined us last month, and many of you did, I see so many of you were on our call last month, you might still be thinking about the stories shared by Kuyaf. He truly fulfilled the meaning of his name, which is messenger, a carrier of ancient knowledge into modern times. And it's so clear to me that to know somebody at the heart level helps us understand maybe what message they're here to bring. It helps break down barriers, it heals divisions, and it truly turns the other into a brother or sister, which you know that this Euphrates family is all about. So today we'd like to introduce you to another messenger carrying her own stories and wisdom and practicing peace at all levels, from personal to interpersonal and beyond, in so many different mediums. But before we get too far, I'd like to share the flow of today's call just to help everybody know what the order of events are, if you will. So we'll have a conversation with Carmen Rubin, who's our guest today. Then we'll have some breakout sessions, and we'll return for an art reveal and some time for a large group Q&A before we close. Last month, we tried to have our call for 60 minutes and there was just too much, so it felt too short. Today, our call will return to the 90-minute format, which is, first the conversation and then time for us to get to know one another in smaller breakout rooms. And you did hear me right, I said an art reveal. So today it's so exciting. We have a renowned artist on our call today, and I'd like to introduce you all to him. Clintel Steed. We just found out that EL in his name means of God. He's an American artist living and working in New York City. He holds a BFA, Bachelor's of Fine Arts in Painting from the Art Institute in Chicago and an MFA from Indiana University, and has also completed advanced studies at the New York Studio School of Drawing, Painting, and Sculpture. I read through his background, his bio. I mean, the list of awards and accolades and exhibitions that Clintel has been like under his name, it would take me the full 90 minutes to read those for you on the call today. So I do hope we'll send links to his site so you can read more about him. But an important part of his biography that feels relevant to today's call is that he is our guest speaker's cousin. And I feel like when Carmen calls to ask somebody to be a part of something, you probably have to say yes. So today, Clint will listen with us and will paint while his cousin shares from her heart, creating a work of art in real time. And at the end of the call, when we come back from our breakout sessions, he'll share his creation with us. And now it's time to introduce Carmen Rubin, our guest speaker. So, you know the people that you meet and that you instantly feel like they're home, their family. And this is what I felt in my first conversation with Carmen. And I mean, within the first seconds of meeting her, like literally seconds. And within minutes of having our conversation, I knew she was a peace builder, something I'm not even sure she knew. I don't even know if you labeled yourself that way, Carmen, but I did instantly. Carmen is an author, having written over a dozen books and stories. She's an activist, a philanthropist, starting her own nonprofit that helps get books into the hands of children that are underserved. She's a teacher. She's an artisan storyteller, a sense maker, a light giver. She is a partner, a wife, a mother, a sister, a daughter, a granddaughter. I'm sure you're also obviously a cousin, probably a niece, right? Carmen is an inner peace warrior and an earth lover. Shining a bright light through her words, Carmen's heart fills all the nooks and crannies of every conversation I've ever had with her, and I know today will be no different. So now we get to have a conversation. Carmen and Katie Leonardelli, obviously, many of you know her, and if you don't, you'll love her. She and Carmen will have a great conversation for us for the next little bit, and then we'll turn it back over to me for some breakout sessions. While she's painting, while they're talking, we'll be able to see, I mean, the way my screen is set up, you all, is that I can see the art being designed. It's in my bottom right corner. So I hope you all have this spotlight view and enjoy this conversation in art.
Wonderful. Hollister, thank you for—
What an introduction. I think we're done.
I know, right? I know, it's like my job's done.
An introduction. Ah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, Carmen, we are just delighted. For those of you who don't know me, I am Katie. I'm on the Euphrates leadership team. It's wonderful to be with you today. And just to echo what Hollister said, Carmen, we are delighted to have you. And Clintel, to have you doing this art is just such a bonus extra gift. And it's really moves me and just to the heart place to see this creation happening. Carmen, so why don't we just start out? It would be wonderful if you could just tell us about yourself. Tell us your story. Where are you from? Tell us about your childhood, how you got into storytelling as an art and form of peace building.
Yeah. Good. Well, hello, everybody. It is so good to see you. I'm just thrilled at the idea of being with people from all over the world for the next hour. Well, I'm not even going to say people, family from all over the world in this conversation for an hour and a half. So yes, my name is Carmen Rubin, and I'm gonna try in a very short way to describe myself. There is a poet, Naira Waheed, and she has a short little poem that says, "There is peaceful, there is wild. I am both of them." That is the best way to describe myself, right? And what I've imagined several times in my life is this kind of scenario. So just kind of go with me, right? So there's God, right? He's up in the heavens. And this is pre, Carmen going over to Earth's side. He takes his piece of clay and he starts working with it, right? He's taking everything that he needs to do to create who's gonna, this vessel that's gonna be Carmen. And so he pulls from her grandmother, Golden Jacobs. He pulls from her height, right? And she was a woman who was 6'1", right? This woman, her husband was 5'5". So you can only imagine what that looked like, right? And then he goes over to Zella Robinson, her other grandmother, who is incredibly profound in creativity, who has music in her soul, and who, if she would have kind of delved into this fashion industry, would have been Vera Wang times 10, right? So then there's her. And then there's Charles Plummer, whose laugh is very, very big and loud. And it rumbles, the room rumbles when he's in there, right? And then there's Kitty, Catherine, Miss Kitty, we call her. And for whatever way that you can describe of Miss Kitty, I feel like all kitties, if you call their name, you can only imagine what a kitty would be, right? She is in every way a Miss Kitty, right? Sassy, and her heart is very full of compassion, and she is a giver. And so God is working with all of these people as he's constructing me, right? And then he gives me all these little tidbits of other things, like, extra love, right? And then a taste for music, and then a taste for the world, and a taste for, how do we say food? Tacos, I gotta have, right? There's
that is in your bio.
Yeah. There's like, I
the
gotta
love of
mention
tacos.
right? And he's working on all of this. And then he sends the wind. Well, let me get back. He creates it and constructs it to become me. They are me, I am them, right? And then he sends the wind to topple me over and crack and break. And then he puts me back together again with all these little intricacies of brokenness, right? If that is the best way that I can describe myself, I would say I am just a broken vessel made up of a lot of people, right? That construct into who you're seeing today. And then when he sent me over to Earthside on August the 27th, 1969, he told the rest of the world, brace yourself.
Wow.
That is me. Where I'm from a lot of different places. I've never had an address, the same address, year after year until I came to New Jersey. I've been here for 32 years. I've raised my daughters here. I've raised my husband here. Catch that.
Noted.
Right. Yeah. And I write books for children. I used to sing all over the world. I don't sing as much anymore. I prefer to just be with the kids and mingle into the world, and to try to make it the best way I can every day. And sometimes the wind comes through and breaks me all over again, and then I start again. And that's me. That's just the best way to describe it.
Wow, Carmen, I have not heard someone describe themselves and where they're from in that way before, and that is so incredibly powerful.
Thank you.
How did you decide, or if it was even a decision, to become a storyteller and to write? Like, what was that journey like for you?
Right. I love that question. So I don't think that I decided. I think that it decided me. And when I was a young child, right, I used to, and I'm still this way. And I like to say that I'm still a young child. I try my best to be most of the time. But when I was a young child, I really loved solitude. I really loved being by myself. I was responsible very early for caring for my brother and my younger sister. My mom spent many years in and out of prison when I was a child. When her and my dad got divorced when I was 4 years old. When he left me with the burden of caring for the emotions of many adults, and also left me with the responsibility of caring for his children, caring for the responsibility of financial responsibility. And so I took a role on very, very early, a big person's role on very, very early. But it was the times when I was a child. I would be in my room, the moments that I would have my peaceful moments, I would write. And writing is what carried me. I started out by writing letters to God at 9 years old.
Mm.
And in these letters to God, I would talk to him about everything that I wanted and from him and everything that I wanted to be. And it's funny because my number one thing was peace. Before I wanted any material thing, the one thing that I wanted was peace, because in my life, in my surroundings, everything was chaotic. And so I went on this quest to 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 find peace. And I knew that when I had my own family, that would be a very, very large factor in my space. And so when you come into my house, the first thing, without even being asked to do, people usually they start to take their clothes off. I've always laughed about how kids usually start to pull their clothes off when they come into my house. It's like this welcoming feeling, like just be yourself, take your shoes off, take whatever off, just be, the adults, not so much, but yeah, just come here and be, right? And so I've always prided myself in the fact that when people walk into my home, that's what they feel. They feel peace. And they come to hear my stories, and they also come to tell me their stories. And so as I started kind of picking up on this calling kind of thing, right? The stories originally started, or the speaking kind of originally started for myself, to release and to also give back to myself in the times where there was quiet. And then I said, one day I'll grow up, I'll be a lawyer. That didn't happen, right? And then I said, I'll grow up to be a teacher. And that did happen. And I started teaching. And the kids love to hear my voice. I would sing to them, I would talk to them, but I noticed I started understanding the power of my voice, because sometimes it would rock kids to sleep, right? It was this kind of feeling where they would go to sleep, or they would come closer to me. And I love the idea of them coming closer to me. And so I started pulling these stories out and reading them to them. And even without pictures, they were interested, right? So yeah, a little bit of politics happened in the school district, and I said, no more. I want to be able to reach kids all over the world. And I set on this quest to just create my own book. And I threw myself out there and landed on concrete, and and said, again, brace yourself, because I'm coming. So
Wow.
it kind of found me. And then I started getting comfortable with the idea, I just started really recognizing my voice, and I started using it in a lot of ways. And so I can use it in a soft tone, and then I can also use it like my father in a loud rumble, right? That if I see you hurting something, or if I see injustice or unfairness, that's when you hear and feel the rumble of my voice. But then there's also this part that says, come to me and rest and talk to me and let me know what you're feeling and what you're thinking. And I know how to use that a lot. I've learned how to use it, and I use it a lot, right? And so now the storytelling part, where it's just, kind of seen into a book, that's just a small piece of it. I just kind of found a way to go back to the kids, my own self, the child in myself, because I didn't get much of that, right? I didn't have much of the childish play, right? So I've always been so grown up and so motherly, and I'm always trying to find my way out of that, even now. So I think my proudest moment, even now, is when my kids say, Mom, grow up, right? I love that, because that means that I am at play, and that's where I feel good. And so the children's stories are about that. It's about finding my way to make peace with the child inside, and it's also about finding my way to the kids who need to hear what I have to say, because we're all here, and we're always going to be here. And I want my work to say, and it's okay. Okay.
I love that. And there's, in your books, I feel like there's just so many layers of messages. And so what do you feel like is your most important message that you are trying to convey in your books, or when you go speak to kids? Because I know you do a lot of that, and I don't know, it's probably changed during COVID, but Just, yeah, if you could just sort of speak to sort of like the undertones or like the deeper messages that you're trying to convey, or like the purpose behind when you show up at a school and you're sharing these stories.
Yeah. So the one thing you can't hide from, um, uh, the thing about children is that they're going to see you as you are, right? So you can put on all the fronts and you can try it in any kind of way, but the kid, the masks, all of that, the kids see you as you are. And when I'm with kids, I'm an honest person. I try to be, right? But when I'm with kids, I don't have to work so hard to show them who I really am, because they can feel it. They're the most sensitive, in tune little beings. And we don't give them enough credit for who they are and what they do, right? They're really, really powerful people. And it's just when they start walking into the world where, they start taking blows, which make them harder. And then they start taking this and that and this and that, and it turns them into something else. But when we start out with the babies, right, it's just as pure as it gets. And so when you approach them, you have to approach them with purity, right? Or else they will walk away from you. They're very good at that. They're like, I see you and I want no parts of it, right? And so what I love about them is that they keep me on my toes about the love that I have. And that is the underlying message, because when the adults don't see that, the kids find it. They will find, let's just say in my book, Ashley Meets Birdman Out, when they see the great bird, the teacher sees this bird, but the kids see God and the spirit and what the bird has done behind the scenes, right? The kids see that. And those are some of the undertones in the stories, is that when I'm writing, I am always writing from a place of love and a place of goodness for the kids to see, right? And then I put these symbols, reminders. I'll give you an example. So when I was a little kid, my grandfather started a peppermint candy club. And it's a club about just showing love. And what he would do is, kind of pull these peppermint candies from all places. I'm like, I don't know how he hid these things, but, he'd pull them from behind his ear, from under his hat. I'm like, Granddaddy, how do you carry so many peppermint candies, right? But he carried these peppermint candies, and everybody wanted to be in the peppermint candy club. And the peppermint candy club was, again, it was about showing love, but it was also an intentional thing from my grandfather to show the kids who had situations at home an extra dose of love. So it would include a child like me, right? And so even kids who had good home life, they wanted to be in the peppermint candy club. And of course he allowed them to be in it, but it was really about the kids who had a whole lot of other stuff going on. And so he would hand you a peppermint candy, and that would put you into the club. Now, it didn't cost you anything. The only thing that you had to do is show love. And so when I created all of my stories, what I've done is I've asked the illustrators to put hidden peppermints throughout the story, and the kids help me find them. So if you look closely, you'll see a hidden peppermint in there.
I missed that one.
Yes.
Wow, that was a sneaky one.
Yeah, there's one in there. And then here's the obvious. I'll give you another one. So here's another one, right? So you'll see them throughout the stories. And I go through this after we read the story, because I don't want kids to just pick up the book and then put it away when the words are read. I want them to lean into it. I want them to touch it. I want them to go in the pages and study the art. I want them to find the peppermints with me. And as we go throughout each page and they're looking for it, they're also being reminded that you have a responsibility, that no matter what is happening around your environment, or no matter what is going on in the world, no matter what the media is showing, you are always responsible for showing love. And that's how we start the fire, right? That's how we keep the fire kind of going. That's how we pour gasoline on the fire and make this big explosion in the world with love. So that's what I do. I try to make sure that there are not just one message, but there are messages in my stories. But I also leave it to the interpreter to figure out what they're going to take from it, because one kid can look at the mud as just, something that pigs lay in, right? But then there are other people who say, "Ooh, I see the pig, but I also see the mud and I relate to the mud." And that is the yucky stuff in life that we have to navigate through. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's really big people topics
Mhm.
in a way where we can speak to the child and they get it. They get it.
So for people who haven't had the opportunity to read your books yet, because I know they're all going to read your books after this,
I
but
hope.
so tell them, I love the mud
Yeah.
like metaphor and all of
Mhm.
that. So can you just give the highlights of the book of what's
Hancho.
the
Hancho.
Hancho? Yes,
Hancho
and
hates mud.
Hancho hates
Yeah.
mud, and just a little bit about this cute little pig on a farm who
Sure.
hates mud. Can you just give them a
Sure.
little highlight of what that book is, and then we'll talk
Sure.
about
Absolutely.
the big message in there and the little messages.
Yeah. So Hancho hates mud. So for one, this is a word that I taught my kids never ever to use, right? And we teach kids never ever use this word. But it was like, how can I say what I'm feeling without using this word? And the answer is I couldn't. For this particular book, it was the reality is if we sugarcoat everything for children, right? Um,
Looks like Carmen just dropped, so I'm sure she'll come right. I'm sure she'll be right back.
are you guys there? Can you see me?
Oh, I can't.
Hold on just a second.
Okay, no worries. I'm just looking at this gorgeous artwork in the meantime. My goodness, as she gets her video back. Well, I'll just share a little bit about Hancho Hates Mud for those of you who haven't had an opportunity to read the book yet. It's about a pig that lives on a farm, and the pig hates mud, and Carmen's back. And so because the pig hates mud, you can imagine the pig's trying to distance himself or herself from the mud, and other people make fun of her on the farm. And
Can you
so
hear me?
yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I saw
That's
someone
okay.
ask me to join something and I accidentally hit the button. I'm so sorry.
No worries, no worries. I was trying to do your book a little bit of justice,
Thank
and
you,
also
thank you,
everyone was
thank you.
watching the
Okay.
art, so we're good.
Okay. So I'm back. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So, going back to the word hate, I decided that I had to be honest and say that we go through life, and the reality is there are things that come in our life that we absolutely dislike and have a disdain for, and we hate things, and it's what we do with the things that we hate. Hopefully it's never people, right? But there are some things in life, and I remember just being a kid saying, I hate being a child of divorced parents. I hate being a child whose mother went to prison. I hate moving every year. I hate moving, I remember saying those things. And I know that there are children and people and adults who have the same feelings, but it's like, what do I do with that? Right. And so what I decided to do with with this particular book is really kind of center myself on the things that I hated and what I did with what I hated. And it was almost like those things had the power over me, but then eventually I created and maintained my power over it. So I'll give you an example. So, and I knew that I had to make the mud a character. So if you take a look at this, we turned the mud into a character, right? Because we wanted to personify it in some way. So it goes from here to this kind of thing. And throughout the story, this mud is kind of jabbing and jabbing at this pig who stands out, who wants everything different from all the other pigs. And she would hear things like, you're a pig, you should do what pigs do and be like pigs are. And and she wasn't for that. She wanted other things in life. And so, this is kind of going back to the things that I would hear as I was growing up, right? And the mud continued to kind of stand in her face and poke at her and jab at her, right? See, laugh at her. This is kind of a reflection or representation of life, right? And then you kind of see how when her friends come along, the farm friends, they'll say, do you think that you are better than us? And her answer would be no. And you told us of the fancy things that you wear in your dreams. How will you get them? And she would say, nothing comes easy. And so her approach was to say, I've had enough, to the things that were overtaking her, right? And then she goes into hard work, and you'll see her. She does not complain. She kind of goes into the hard work. And by the end of it, you'll see where the friends will say, they all love what was happening to the farm, and suddenly Hancho didn't seem so weird after all. So she ends up, they watch and see how she has impacted them. And then they join in to make the farm a better place. She never leaves her farm. She stays with it. She stays with the farm, and then everybody now is working with her. And then the mud, you'll see how in the beginning it stands over her, but then in the end, she controls it and tells it where it belongs. And she never tells it to leave because she's aware that it will never leave, right? We're always going to have the muddy and the yucky stuff. But there's the power that we have within us to tell the yucky stuff its place. And that's kind of where she ends it. And then at the end, she does get her dream, right? And it really was to just make things better in her environment, right? So I had to make the make the mud a thing where there's this, this constant antagonist, right? Because we have it. We have our own things even in our heads that are telling us what we can't be and what we can't do, and how much we don't make contributions in the world. But in actuality, every single day, in every single way, in small steps, we do. Yeah.
Carmen, I'm so struck by that. And when we were talking, I think it was the first time we met, you, and I hope it's okay that I sort of reference this, talked about sort of the voices in your head every morning.
Yeah.
You have to kind of get past in order to dig into your work. And like, love if you would just share a little bit about what the mud is for you, and also the, what you've had to sort of overcome in order to use your voice as a tool for peace, and how you continue to foster that sense of personal peace.
Right. So, I don't always like to use the word overcome, if that makes sense. I like to keep it in present tense, like I'm overcoming, because this is work, right? Every single day. I wake up in the morning and I have to talk to the people in my head who say, you know what, you're still Carmen from Cali, whose mother was this. I mean, by the way, my mother's doing a great job. She's doing wonderful. She's kept herself out of the stuff, right? So I have to say that because it's wonderful, right? But every day I have to tell myself, you are more than what they said you're going to be. You are not, it's just all this work inside of my head. And then I go through that and I affirm of who I am. And I always start with I am. And then I, kind of list these things. I am soft. I am love. I am, healthy. I am, easy like Sunday morning, whatever it is, whatever that thing is, I have to say, I am. And then before I get out of bed, I say, thank you. And I used to start out with just saying, thank you one time, but gosh, by the time I get out of that bed, I'm saying thank you over and over and over again, because that is, it's just how I feel these days. I don't really have much requests. I'm just so grateful to be given the opportunity, a new day, to be given the opportunity to do what I do. Right. So that's the process. What's the rest of the question, sweetheart? I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. And it was just more about the personal peace element. We had
talked about
yes. Like how you had said something that was so profound about you work so hard on your personal peace so that you're able to give it to others. And I just was like, yes.
Yeah, I do. I put in a lot of work. My days are Sundays, right? So every day I have to remind myself to go look for the sun. right? Because although we all have, and maybe you don't, maybe it's just me, these turmoil things that we have to work through, right? And sometimes I say I'm my own therapist. I probably should pay somebody because maybe it would take off some of the pressure of the work that I have to do. But I have committed to putting in the work, right? And so in my putting in the work, it's like, in order for me to do what I do, I have to have it. I have to be honest with myself and have it here first, right? And so I just create these little things that I do on a daily basis because I have to. And it starts first by saying to yourself, go find the sun. And I know that if I find the sun, then that's going to be a good day for me and everybody else, right? And when the sun doesn't come, let's just say, because I live in New Jersey and sometimes the sun does that, right? I have to find the sun somewhere else. And so Sundays are, I do it every day, but Sundays are my very, very intentional days. And I call it SOS, Sun on Sundays, right? and I try to, and all the words have to start with an S for me, right? So I'll just give you an example. So Sunday stretch, so I'll stretch, right? And then there's Sunday soften, right? Which means that I'll kind of take this clench, because whether we know it or not, we're usually pretty clenched and we don't even realize it. So I'll remember to soften myself, I was like, oh my God, I didn't realize that my jaw was like, And so then there's this Sunday soften, right? And then there's Sunday scent. Go and find something that I love to smell, right? Either a flower or my husband's neck after it's washed, of course, something, some kind of scent that's going to make me feel good. Then the Sunday song, either I sing it or I listen to somebody else sing it, right? Sunday sex. Oh, did I say that? Yes, you have to have that. Yeah, so it's that. What else? Sunday smile. That means when I exit out of my front door, that I am making sure that I am intentional about what I am giving over to the next person. So that's my SOS. And when I start going into and tapping into the SOS, then that's a good thing, right? Because I know that I am saving myself first, right? And then I'm going to the rest of the world to show them my very best self.
I love that.
Thank you.
And I love that we had talked to about, kind of alluded to it, like there's that need to sort of foster that sense of personal peace, because not only are you giving it out to the kids and your talks and all that, but that, and I hope it's okay that I'm quoting on this, you said to every time that you leave your home, you're reminded that you are Black in America today.
Oh, yeah.
And I just want to know if you would open that up a little bit about, just either this past year, or it could even be, taking it back, beyond just, the incredible events of this last year. Because obviously, this has been a lifetime for you of how do you bring that sense of personal peace or interpersonal peace to racism that you've experienced.
Right. So my grandfather's mantra was love, right? But sometimes I found it very hard to love in the middle of a lot of things. It's really interesting because I didn't know that I was a Black girl until I got to middle school in Salt Lake City, Utah, right? Remember I told you that I have not shared the same address a year after year in my entire life until I moved to New Jersey. But I landed in Utah, which is where my father was living at the time. And I walked into a school where I was the only Black girl there, and I knew I wasn't even, it wasn't even a topic, because the schools that I had gone to prior to that, everybody looked like me, and we didn't discuss it, right? And then I walked into a middle school in Salt Lake City, and I started hearing the monkey sounds, right? I was the only Black child in the school, including all the teachers. And so I started hearing the monkey sounds. I started being called names like, Aunt Jemima, and I got it. I watched Shirley Temple. I had seen it on there. But for me, it was like, wow, what do I do with this? I had just come from California. I didn't know what to do with that. And so I took the approach that I would handle it. And then I, spoke to my grandfather. Of course, my grandfather was just so, so powerful. He ends up coming up to the school with the NAACP, which is pretty funny to me right now that I think about that. It's like he brought the NAACP to my middle school. Wow. But that was almost like an indication that I knew that I had backing, if that makes sense. When my grandfather showed up. Now, there was no interruption or there was no protest or anything like that. It was my understanding that I had a certain level of power, that I was never standing alone in the situation. And I knew that there was a peaceful approach to it, and then there was another approach to it, right? And internally, it made me angry, right? And then I get off to college and I take this summer course called The Black Woman. So I started getting angry about a lot of different things, not necessarily the sounds that I was being called. It was more so like, why are people this way and what do they get out of it? And it was, how do I navigate? And my answer to that was, well, if you get on the National Honor Society, then you'll be the only Black face in the picture. You'll just outgrade everybody and outsmart everybody. That was my answer to that. And then I get to Rutgers University, and I took this class called The Black Woman, and by a professor whose name is Carla Jackson Brewer, the most amazing female that I've ever met in my life, right? And there was a sense of empowerment of just starting to introduce me to all these figures like Lorraine Hansberry and obviously Maya Angelou and Gloria Steinem and all these people. And I'm just like, whoa, Gloria Steinem is speaking on behalf of the woman. And then there's Nina Simone speaking on behalf in her way for Black women. And then there's, and I just took that and it never left me. And so I just started developing this sense of empowerment that for whatever Carla Jackson Brewer had done for me, it was now my place to do that. I raised my daughters to be humans, right? And I raised them to be kind and do the best that they can in treating people fairly. And I knew that my daughters would kind of get somewhat of a pass because of how they look, because they're very beautiful. And so even though they were Black, people were always intrigued with them because they looked exotic, right? And so they didn't really kind of, other than being called chocolate face on the bus, they really didn't have much to deal with. But I also knew that when I sent them out of my front door, that they had to be prepared if something else were to come. So in our everyday walk, if we go to the grocery store, it's little subtle things like the white woman who, when I'm talking to someone asking for help, the white woman approaching the same person that I'm asking and standing in front of me as though I don't exist. So I'm never really thinking about it until I step out the door, right? Because we don't have to have those conversations. But then I'm reminded, and I'm also reminded when it's time to be weak, right? How incredibly strong we've been made to be. And some of my other counterparts don't have to do that. Like when I raised them, I have to, when I was raising my daughters and some of the other young ladies, I had to affirm them every day. You are this, you are that. I had to put Black art up in the house, to make them feel good about it if it did show up in a negative way. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
So that's the everyday. And then there is last year and George Floyd. And see, George Floyd is new to a lot of people, right? The situation is new to a lot of people because we were in COVID quiet, right? And so there were no basketball games on. We actually saw what really happens on TV, right? But because I'm a history major, I've seen strange fruit hanging from the poplar tree, right? I've seen that. I've seen this in many different instances in Brazil. I've been in Brazil and gone to Salvador de Bahia where the Blacks are, right? And then Rio where there's a mix of all these different beautiful, wonderful colors. I've seen how it kind of how the media kind of handles this thing, right? And then George Floyd happens, and then you guys all get a chance to finally see what we've seen for a long time, right? And so what do I do with that? I continue to educate through my nonprofit. I raise money, right, to make sure that young men are educated just last week, I had my group of young men who are now first generation college students. We talked to them. I had a police officer and a person from the FBI just do a Zoom call with them, just to talk to them about what to say when they're pulled over, just simple things like that, right? Just little things. Because those are the conversations that we have to have. How to speak, how to handle the matter when you don't feel comfortable, when you feel like you're being targeted. You know, this situation has caused us to have heavier conversations with our children a lot earlier, right? And so we have them, and then we teach them how to love their way through it, because the only way that we can win this is to find the peace and the love within the whirlwind. That's the only way we can do this, right? And so we have to travel to it even when it's hard, because we know what it is. And the one thing about this is that it never stopped me from loving human beings, because most of the people that have helped me, especially monetarily for my programs, are white people. And so I am not going to say that this is every white person's problem. I'm not going to say that it's every Black person's problem. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say this is a problem that filters through an evil that we need to destroy, right? And we're all these superhumans that are doing our very best, even in moments like this, to conquer it.
Wow, Carmen, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
At this point, we're going to take a pause. I'm going to
Okay.
turn it back over to Hollister. We are going to come back. This isn't the end with Carmen. We're going to come back to her
Okay.
at the end after our breakouts. But Hollister, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. I was just forgetting what time it was because I was engrossed in the conversation, and Clintel's beautiful masterpiece that's being evolved as you all spoke.
Yeah.
So I'm just grateful for this time with you all. And I'm going to let everybody know that it's time to move into breakout rooms. If you're not going to stay around, and we don't want you to leave, but if you have to go, we understand. So you can drop off the call now. And Sylvia is breaking up everybody into small discussion groups. So when you see something come across your screen, that's when you know, you click it, you enter that room. You don't have a choice about what room you're being put in. You're being put in a room, just say yes. It'll be friends that you'll love to know and have conversation with. And really, this is your time just to reflect on what you have been inspired by, any insights you have. And really, I think if you are so moved, do you have a story, an untold story that you want to tell? Do you have a sense of, do you want to share what your personal peace practice is? How, you know, Carmen beautifully explained how she has spent her whole life claiming inner peace for herself and the challenges that you face in doing that. And I think all of us in this room have had that experience in different ways with different skin colors in different corners of the world. So everybody, we're going to break. And then when we come back, Clintel will share with us he's going to spend time refining and finishing up what he's working on. Carmen will still be here. Everybody will still be here. This little four-square will look the same. And we'll just invite everybody into further Q&A with the artist and the author, activist, and beauty that is Carmen. So Sylvia, I'll let you start sending the messages. Yeah. And if you have any trouble with your breakout room, Sylvia will be the person that you'll see, and she'll be able to help guide you through any technical issues you're having.
Such beautiful people. I'm so happy. So happy to be here. So happy. Do you want to go into a room, Carmen? Sylvia, do you have Carmen in a room? Okay. Oh, so put me back in there, because I saw it and I was nervous to hit the button again.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I'm not doing that this time.
My computer froze when that happened, and then I was trying to unfreeze it, and then you went into a room, so that was my fault. So
oh my
sorry.
gosh. Okay. So if you give me one, then I can.
Yeah, I'm just gonna move
Clintel.
you and then put you back.
I may just drop this video and use my phone for the duration, okay?
Okay.
So once you guys go in, I'll show you guys myself. I'll show you guys the piece, but I'll probably just stick with that phone now, okay?
Okay.
So I'm gonna sign out of here. This is super cool. Thank you,
It is.
guys.
Oh, it's so great. Oh,
Okay, so Carmen found her room. And then we have a
Okay.
few. Hi, Deborah.
if anybody else needs help getting into a room, feel free to unmute yourself and let us know. Or if you just want to hang out here, we're okay with that. And I'm gonna pause our recording.
Do another, like, it's like the, yeah, it's like speed dating, but like in breakout rooms, everybody just be like, huddle, huddle, huddle.
Yeah, let's speed date, yeah.
Everybody keeps huddling up. And you all, everybody, I love that people say every time we come back from breakout rooms, everybody always says, that was too short, that was too short. And that we are so glad it's too short. I mean, we wish it wasn't, but we're so glad that that's the feeling, that's the energy you're bringing back.
Yes, yeah, beautiful.
So we're gonna, is everybody back now, Sylvia? Because I know we lost about 10 people that had to go at the top of the hour. Okay. Okay. So welcome back. We're so glad that I feel the enthusiasm. I see the energy. I'm so grateful that everybody was able to break off and have some small group conversation and get to know each other a little bit better. And just so you know, this doesn't have to be the end of your conversation. Last month, we had a few people say, oh, I got to meet so-and-so and so-and-so, and I didn't exchange emails, or I'd like to know them better. So you can always tell me, Hollister, that you'd like to know somebody better. And I'm happy to connect you, to share emails and make sure people have ways to continue conversation, because that's what this is all about. Yeah. So in the spirit of continuing conversation, we would like to invite Clintel to show us what he has created in this last 70 minutes, where he's been working and listening and painting as we've shared our conversation. So Sylvia is going to spotlight is it what? I'm sorry, what, Sylvia? Yes. Oh, the spotlight doesn't show for me. I think I have it on the wrong view. Now I see. Oh, here we are. Sorry, I had the wrong view on my computer. Hi. Okay, so I mean, the floor is yours.
Okay. Well, I just want to first of all thank you for inviting me. Thank you guys for being here. Super special moment. So anyway, this was what was made during that phone call. I mean, during this Zoom conversation. Yes. And so as Carmen was talking, some of the things I started thinking about, we grew up together, so I know Carmen very well. She's always sort of had an influence on me. I really love her and respect her. So it's very nice to be a part of this with her. So as she was talking, one of the things I was thinking about that's super important is this idea of self-love. And us loving ourselves and being able to find that sense of power and truth. And also, I don't know if this is visible, this idea of reaching, like she talked about our grandfather a lot. So reaching for that sort of maturity and that clear voice, reaching down to help you in those moments, but also letting that light come from you and that light shine from within and loving that light. So that's that piece. And finally, I did start these other two pieces. And the interesting thing about this for me, as an exercise, it takes me out of my comfort zone. I know we did talk about education there. But so one of the things I've always loved about painting is this idea of a metaphor. So these two paintings right here, I started when Carmen told me she wanted me to be a part of this. And I was just thinking about, okay, the idea of the triptych, right? We know diptychs and triptychs, how they're part of, you know, history. And I love painting history. I love art history very much. This moment reminded me of Dadaism. If you guys know about Dadaism, Surrealism, I was reading the Dadaist manifesto. And what was interesting is I really wanted to be a blank slate, as Carmen was talking, to really allow myself to be affected and not do the norm. But anyway, so as a triptych, these two elements, the left and the right, is sort of how it's feeling. And we talked about this, George Floyd, January 6th, some of the things that's happening in the current times. But with Carmen's conversation, this brings in the triptych, and it's maybe the answer to being this sort of robot state of mind or whatever. What is the answer to the chaos that we feel right now, and that is love. Love yourself. Don't hate. All these things. But now I feel like the piece is complete. So that's it.
Oh, I love it. That's amazing.
Oh my God, Clintel. So when I'm looking at the picture, the one that you did while we were speaking, it looks like a, can you put it back on the?
Yes.
Yeah. So it looks like a kiss, right?
Yes.
And it looks like the hand on the face and a level of warmth. And even like, if you look at the top, it's almost like the white space that you left is the gray hair that I'm thinking, right? Of me coming to my father's, right? It's this kind of energy where my sadness, I'm looking at like almost like a reddish tint in the eye around the eyeball. And I'm looking at that and I'm like, it's almost like what happened, what the eye looks like after the tears have gone away, right? And it's this embrace with the this embrace from an elder. That's what I'm taking from it. And there is this light and reach kind of element. I love this, Clint. I love this.
No, it's cool. And I really, the Dadaist thing was, the powerful thing about Dadaism was you tried to always sort of get into your subconscious. So what am I seeing? And I don't necessarily want it to be abstract, but what am I taking from those words that you're saying?
Right.
And this idea of love and light and, love from the past, understanding your history. And, as you said, we're still writing our narrative, especially in this country, that narrative is still being defined. Right. So I just think this loving light, loving yourself, being a part of that, allowing yourself to be you without judgment, because these things sort of, to me, become the elements of, it's very almost science fiction in a way, but together, it's something else.
Yeah.
And that's, and that's what I love that. And that's the metaphor for life. What is, we all have metaphors and we all have ways of expression.
Yeah.
And these are things a part of us. That's why storytelling, sharing our experiences are so powerful.
Oh, I'm even, at first I'm like, so this is what I love about art, is because you can look at it 1,000 times and get 1,000 different messages. And so at first I saw the kiss, but as I started looking deeply into it a little bit more, I also see an opportunity to whisper into the ear, like I'm actually telling something and there's a listening component of it. And I feel the intimacy of this piece of work. So there's the kiss, and then there's the here's my ear kind of thing. And I don't know, I'm actually curious to see what other people are taking from it. Oh my gosh, Clint, I love this.
That's perfect, Carmen. We would like to invite everybody to participate in this conversation now in whatever way you're comfortable. If you want to raise, like there's a raise hand feature and I can try to spot you, or you can wave and I can try to spot you, but we invite anybody to drop a question in the chat room. Any questions you have now, really for Clintel and Carmen to just speak out of your heart to their hearts. And it doesn't have to be a question. It can just be an observation. So Sylvia, if you help me, if I don't see somebody, because I don't always see everybody, thank you. And again, if you're feeling shy and don't want to use your voice, you're welcome to use the chat room. And don't worry, if nobody has questions, we still have some. I see Ofu with your hand raised.
Oh, thank you, Carmen. You are amazing. You are amazing.
Oh,
you are amazing.
Thank you.
You're amazing. You truly use the power of story to communicate your heart and how you transfer your story in a book for kids education. And that reminds me the power of transformative literacy for the children's social, emotional, and spiritual well-being. That's so powerful. I picked so many pieces from your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Clintel, you are so wonderful. That is a very powerful artwork.
Yeah.
You communicated from your heart. Let me tell you what I see. I see a deep compassion. I saw a post-violence empathy. So powerful. That hand That hand is such a consolation in a post-trauma.
Yeah.
That is so powerful. And that closeness is such engagement from her. And when I see the two heads together, it just, the shape of those two heads is exactly half.
Do you see it, that? You see the heart.
Yes. I saw the heart.
I see the heart.
Me too.
You see, you went so deep.
Oh.
And I want to tell you that you touched me from this image. I can pick so much from there.
Yes.
And what you have offered to me is that heart, and which is the deep expression of the message. Thank you, brother.
Oh my goodness, you're so right. The heart is there. Yes.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Wow.
Oh, wow.
Well, Victor, I see Victor, you have your hand up. Victor's from, Ofu's from Liberia, Carmen, just so you know, Clintel. And this is Victor, he's from Liberia.
Oh, yes, okay.
Ofu's from Ivory Coast, Cote d'Ivoire.
What'd I say?
Liberia. Okay.
I know I have places.
I'm sorry, that's what I meant. I'm sorry, I know you're from Cote d'Ivoire.
I have places to sleep when I come. You guys get ready, I'm coming.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Camilla and Clinton. I mean, I'm very, very happy. First of all, there's something that I got up from the Camilla presentation I had with when she said that she more often she do have a support from white community and from Black community. The problem we're facing in the world, which she maybe don't understand, is that, or which I know, it has to do with the blame game. A lot of people trying to blame the white people about racism, and people trying to blame white or Black people about racism.
Yeah.
But the issue we have on the ground, it had nothing to do with white, it had nothing to do with Black.
Right.
It has something to do with the heart of human. Somebody want to control people. Everybody want to control the destiny they belongs to. They want to control the society they belongs to. And when it happens within the community, then other people become marginalized. And at the end of the day, the community suffer. So the issue here is we're trying to learn is that we should not learn to blame a particular race for any issues that is evolving. We should try to take responsibility within our community to work to change the society. Because once we continue to blame people, we will get more bad results than doing the best thing.
Right.
And also to our painter, we love you so much for your presentation. I think that you have to come in Liberia and paint some people.
Yeah.
I would love that.
Yes.
Got an invitation.
Well, it's touching me so much. You know, I mean, this is powerful stuff, and you're so right about education and not trying to adhere to something that is not true. We got to find our truths within inside of ourselves and find that love for each other, because it's not about Black or white. It's not about where you're from. It's what you're giving off and where you're trying to go, right? It's also about, I'm planting seeds today for the trees tomorrow.
Yeah.
Love you guys.
Wow. I love it.
So now we're gonna head up to Europe now, and John had his hand up earlier with the fireworks.
Yes, I love John.
Yeah, well, it's okay. Yeah, it was a birthday party, so okay. Well, Clintel, I'm really going to push more about what you just said, because yes, what I saw, yes, I can see the heart. I can also see the hand reaching from the heart space, bringing these people together. Well, let's say it's embracing that borderless love and taking it out into the open light, shining down upon it. So yes, it's all about embracing that oneness. Say, no, we're not this and that. We are one human race. So let's embrace that with love. Oh yeah. No, it's just very fascinating for me.
I love that. I love that. And when you look at the hand, it doesn't even look like it, like you can look at it as a tight, a soft embrace, but you can also look at it as I'm not letting go, right? And going back to what you say we can't let this thing go. We have to hold on tight to it, but we have to hold on tight with a level of softness that will guide us and that will bring people closer to us. Yes.
Like children do.
Like children do.
They do it like that.
They do it just like that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Beautiful. Thank you. Wow.
And I see Wazier. Yeah, I see your hand up. I held her Wazir for a second, but he's gone now. So let's go to Wazier.
Thank you for this talk. And Carmen, I'm really inspired by your story, and I think I'm going to follow in your footsteps, especially the story of the pig and the mud. I love it so much, and I think it's one of the things that most of us did not see it coming, and or let's say we don't have understanding of it, and we tend to approach issue or handle issue differently or the other way around. But here, I love everything. I love your story, the uses of voice, your Sunday activities. I think I'm going to practice it. Yeah.
If it starts
with
that,
club.
Yeah. It begins with you, the inner peace. You have to take care of yourself before you give up. So when you don't take care of yourself, put things in place, and you go out there, you're going to be a disaster. And you know, so I'm going to really, really put it in practice. Then you also said something about how do you handle matters, or you don't feel comfortable, or when you feel like you're being targeted. So I want you to elaborate a little. How did you go about it? As my question is, how did you handle such matters you don't feel comfortable, or when you feel like you're being targeted?
So remember, I started this all out. I started it and I said there is peaceful, and then there is wild, and I am both. And I've handled all of my situations in one way or the other. So what I didn't tell you is that before my grandfather showed up to the NAACP, I put my hand around that young man's neck, right? And I pinned him up against the wall. And my grandfather said to me, that is not the way we handle it. That's not what we're going to do. We're going to find another way to do it. Because my first response, well, it wasn't my first response. It was repeatedly, day after day, month after month, ignoring after ignoring, that it was like a volcano. I was a volcano erupted. And so I eventually put my hand around his neck and put him up against the wall. And it didn't stop him. But when my grandfather came with the NAACP, it stopped. Because it was a message to, and my grandfather has walked with Martin Luther King, and he has also walked with Malcolm X. And so there's always this very peaceful and non-peaceful kind of battle that I'm working with, that I have to, that when the woman steps in front of me, or, whatever the case is, if I go and I see systemic elements of it, then I have to find a way to speak. And I realized that if I walked around here angry all the time, the work would not get done, and nor would it allow people to hear me and listen to me. And so what I started doing is creating nonprofit organizations. I started raising money to teach kids how to, that's been my approach to handling it. I started writing books, and so that I filter the peace and the love through that way. Right? I started just telling stories. I started actually, I've taken people in, I've raised my daughters, other daughters, I've raised my siblings, I've raised my mother and my own father, right? I've raised my husband, I've raised myself. Like, I'm constantly in this process of just trying to find a way that I can make people good and make people comfortable with stepping outside of the door, right? And so there are just all these different factors. And then there's ways where I come across the world and I'll sing a song for you, and then that makes you feel good, right?
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a lot of different ways. It has filtered through my life. I'm here almost 52 years, and I'm not done. I'm just starting. I'm not done. Trust me, I am not done.
Yeah, I love it. We're at the close, and I feel like there's so much more. Thank you, Wazier, for your question. I don't want to keep everybody too much longer. And I think I'm going to ask Katie to come back on for just a moment to see if there's any way that we just want to close our time together. I mean, we could have ended there because it feels like an ending, but I want to give Katie the opportunity to close the conversation.
I just have so much gratitude for Clintel and for Carmen, to you both, for being here with us today. Carmen, when we were talking yesterday just about our intention, it was really about being in the heart space and expanding community. And you are a part of this Euphrates community, as you can see, and we are just so grateful. But Carmen, I'm actually going to give you the last word. So anything that you feel moved to close with, or any words of wisdom that you might have for this amazing group of international peace builders.
Sure. Okay. So what I'd like to just remind you guys to do is to stay soft, right? And that doesn't mean be weak, nor does it mean to back down, because we don't do that. Right? We don't do that. We don't back down when we have work to do to make this world better, right? But the one thing you have to do is you have to find a way to keep yourself soft, because the only way that we can do this work is to stay that way. And so whatever that means, I would say go into your SOS and make it an intentional practice of making sure that you're okay first, and then taking yourself to the world. And so that's that, right? And then the other thing is, I just want to say thank you, because I asked God for this, right? A long time ago. I asked him to take me all around the world and do this type of work. And I did not know how it was going to come, but even though I've been around the world doing a lot of different things, this by far has been one of the great moments in my life where I get to meet people and talk about how we can keep this work going. And then to Clintel, who is my sweetheart, right? I love you so much. And I am incredibly proud of the work that you are doing and how you are contributing to that, that we took our pain and we did something with it, right? And so to see you doing what you do in 40 minutes at that, right? It takes me forever. You did it in 40 minutes. And to just drop your heart on a piece of canvas is just miraculous. And so I want to say thank you. Thank you, Hollister, Katie. Thank you, Celia. And thank you, everyone, for just this moment, because it is one of my greatest moments in life. Yeah.
Love you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. We're so grateful.
And feel free, we'll keep the chat open for a moment if anybody wants to drop in how they're feeling. And again, just any last words. And we're in true fashion.
If people want to reach out to me or Clint, please,
yes,
please find a way to get to us, because
you all, I'm going to send call notes. And it will have ways, it'll link to you, Carmen, and to you, Clintel, so people can find out more about your art and your work and your voice, and just to know you better in the way that we all got to know you today. And at the end of our calls, it always, we always take time to let everybody unmute and just hear the chorus of humanity from around the world.
Yeah.
And it's wild.
And it's Ofu's birthday today.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Ofu.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Ofu.
Oh, this is my
God bless
this is my
you.
best
Hey,
birthday.
Jenny,
Happy birthday
to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
That's his wife. Ola is his wife.
Happy
birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you, everybody. So special.
Thank you.
Nasa.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you, Carmen.
Thank you, Carmen.
You're welcome. Thank
Just
you.
love
Thank you.
I'd love to get in touch with you, and I will.
Please, please.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
You've inspired me so much, you know.
Thank you so much.
I'm sorry we
Thank
didn't hear
you.
more from
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you,
What'd you say,
Libby.
Libby?
I said,
Bye, Salma.
I said, bye,
Bye,
Libby.
Libby.
We didn't get to hear enough from him in our little group.
Oh, okay. Of course, never enough.
Oh.
Thank you
Bye,
all.
Emmanuel. Oh my gosh, so good to see you.
I know.
Hi, Mr. Cameron.
Hey,
We
Janessa.
love you. Hi, Salma. Oh, we love you.
I just love you. Thank you, Victor.
Love you all
I
too.
just love
Bye,
you.
you guys.
I just love these community calls. It's unbelievable.
Oh
How
my
much
gosh.
inspiring it is.
Seriously.
I just love you. I just love you.
Mara, we're so
I
happy.
just love you.
They don't want to leave.
I know.
I know.
See you all next time.
Okay, bye.
Bye, everyone.
Oh, my
Bye.
baby.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Hollister, do you want me to leave?
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
do you want to join? Yeah, we'll leave, and then do you want to talk?
Oh no, I didn't know if you wanted me to stay on. Okay.
You can stay as long as you want, as long as until Sylvia will let her push the red button.
Oh no, I can't. You guys reach out to me. Thank you so much.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thank you, Carmen.
Clintel, Carmen,
Yes.
Angels
You're
Angels
welcome.
on this Friday. I loved it.
Okay.
Talk to you soon. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.